Hello, my name is Soloman from Gentleman's Club, and today we're going to be looking at and breaking down the speed garage song in Reason Studios. Let's go! You get the idea from that, and there it is, Such a Feeling. Let's start off with bass. The bass line for this was made in a synth called Retro Log, which at the moment, just due to Reason currently working on getting VST3s into Reason, I had to use this and create this synth in Logic, and then I've just bounced it out in audio and dropped it in, and you can hear here. On the next section, I've got the same melody, but I've got it going up in octaves just to give it some change. And then I've got a parallel running to give it some width, and it sounds like this. And basically that is just the sub with a parallel, and I've low cut it and I've added some reverb. I'll show you now. And that's running in parallel with that. So I've got on there an EQ taking out the low end, and then I've got an SubTractor to give it some lower harmonics, and then again I've given it an EQ on there to cut out the low end after the distortion, and I've cut out the high end, and then I've got a compressor on there just to get rid of any peaks, and then that's where the reverb comes in there. Just gives it some width to the 200 to 300 hertz range. And then to give it some width on the top end, on the high end, I've got a parallel noise running with that, which is quite wide. But all together, sounds like this. And then along with that, I've made a separate bounce, but instead of using the typical sawtooths for the Reese, I've used square waves just to give it some extra mids in there, and that sounds like this. And together now. We've got a little switch up bass here, which you heard earlier on, and that was just made in Serum. Really simple stuff. And then we go into the switch up after that, where the vocals came in, and I've got a little stabby sort of bass to go alongside the M1 organ, and that sounds like this. And that's a sampled bass in NXT. That's how it sounds originally. And it's just been lowered an octave, and it sounds lovely. Next, on the intro, I had a rising sub, and that's a simple one, just a maelstrom, sine wave, an octave's worth of pitch bend range, and then it just rises up. And that just throws it into the drop to give it some extra impact. And next we'll go into the drums. So the drums are the main thing carrying this tune, I'd say. There's a lot of layers in here, and it's just all about keeping the rhythm, introducing new things, keeping it exciting to the ear. But you've still got the basics, obviously. It's dance music, so you've got your kick, your clap. So there's a kick and a clap together. And then I've got a bunch of percussions and breaks, and this is where it really gets interesting now. So I'll play all the perks and breaks on their own. it switches up again. And that, alongside the kick and the clap, sounds very full already. Bear in mind, we haven't gone to the hats yet. Again, there's a lot of layers for the hats here. And all together, you've got something that sounds like this. So yeah, we're sounding very full, there's lots going on, it's interesting to the ear, and then as you can see here, it's all running into its separate buses. So the kick and the clap is running into a bus there, and that's doing some compression to gel the kick and the clap together and chop off some peaks, up the gain, and just have it nice and beefy. And then we've got the brakes, which are running through a compressor, an effect rack, which will be the decapitator to give it some warmth from lower harmonics, some EQ to take out some low end. We've got a shaper box on there, which is a volume ducker, so that will keep it side chained and keep everything in line with the kick and the clap. And then the last EQ there is just to cut out some high end. The process then for the hats will be very similar. And then yeah, we've got the drum bus, which has got some minor glue compression on there, another decapitator, and some EQ on there. And then we've got a parallel channel. If you've checked out any of the other tutorials from us, you would have seen myself doing this method before, which is the parallel reverb, which sounds like this. And that just runs in parallel with the main drum bus and just puts all the drums into one room, makes everything sound a lot more gelled together. And then we've got some parallel compression here, New York compression, whatever you want to call it, and this is just heavily compressed signal which runs parallel to the main drum bus, and it just gives it all just some extra weight and body. And then I've got those three channels there. You can see the darker blue ones running into this all drums bus here. We've got an exciter to spruce it up. We've got an imager which is turned off. We've got a virtual mix rack on here which has got the virtual channel on there. We've got an earth on there which gives it some low end, and then we've got some air on there which is just giving it some extra crisp to the top of the drums. Then we've got a Dr. MS on there, which is a Dr. Midside, which is an amazing piece of equipment. This helps to give things width. It's a stereo imager. If you've got something that's a mono, this can make it sound very stereo without giving it any phase cancellation. If you've never used this before, as you can see, you've got your mid signal, you've got your side signal, you've got your focus and your field, and once you play around with the delay on your focus and field and introduces with the zoom, which is kind of like your wet and dry mix, it really helps to give some depth to whatever you put it on. Next we've got the vocals. I'm unsure where we found these vocals from. Funny story, we made this song in 2018 and we've just sat on it since. We didn't really have an avenue to put it out on, and then April this year we actually finished the song off, which is the product you can hear today.
Touch me when I'm near you. When you touch me.
to make this chop vocal here that you can see on the switch vocals, I think for that what I did was I put a output portal on the vocals, and then I just went through the presets until I found something I was happy with, and this was the product that came out, and then it was just fitted perfect for the switch up, so you can hear it here. And the thing that's really keeping the song sounding busy is the effects. There's a lot of effects going on in this song. I'm going to solo the effects now and just press play, and you can just hear the effects rolling through. On its own, it's going to sound really all over the place, but it adds a lot of rhythm and a lot of groove to the song. So as you can hear, very busy, lots going on. If you're unfamiliar with the speed garage sound, this one was very much inspired by Armand van Helden. He's definitely like the godfather of the speed garage sound. Amazing producer. So yeah, you've heard this section here, but the song then goes into a switch up. So I'll let the song play now from mid into the switch up, into the breakdown, up into the second drop, and we'll get stuck into the second drop. And there we have it, the second drop. Favourite part of the song. As you can hear, the melody switches up for the second drop. We've introduced a new bass, and It's quite the epic little breakdown and build up there. So we'll jump into the bass line for the second drop. And yeah, this one was made in SubTractor. And for me personally, the SubTractor is definitely the king of synths for your warping basses, your wompy basses. The SubTractor pretty much made the 4x4 bassline genre. So we're talking your producers like Burger Boy, TRC, Bass Boy. Your 2006 to 2009 kind of 4x4 bassline, everybody used SubTractor for those synths. And that's why Reason's great, because it's built in, so it's there at your disposal at any time. So here's the SubTractor patch for this warping bass. So I'll solo it now, I'll play it alone. This is a square wave, just one oscillator. It's got some filter envelope on there, quite a high attack on there. For these warping sounds you need a high attack. And then yeah, really low on the filter and a little bit of resonance. But I do automate, as you can see with these green boxes, I do automate the attack, the delay, the frequency and the resonance on there. The resonance will give it more of a wet, warpy sound. So on here, on this synth, we've got a filter on there. We've got 2 lots of saturation on there to give it some warmth. We've got the trash on there to give it some slight distortion. We've got some EQ on there, which are gathered to take out some high end, compression to keep us in line, and then we've got an EQ doing nothing. Yeah, it sounds like this. And then on the switch up, the resonance builds up, so we'll see how that sounds from one section to the next. Definitely hear the difference there with the resonance. It's got more of like a whomp kind of sound to it. It's the only way I can explain it. And then yeah, alongside that, we've got the same trick as on the first drop synth, which is the reverb, the parallel reverb. But this is a little bit of a longer reverb than the first drops one. And then we've got some noise, the same as before, just to give it some width on that high end. And then we've got this little bugger here, which is, when you hear Speed Garage, this is what you can imagine. And then the second part. This is the same patch as the original Warp, but then I've added a second oscillator on there, and I've added a very heavy detune on there. But all of it together sounds very, very naughty. So let's go. And the switch up. And we have it. So as you can probably hear on the intro, we had your classic M1 organ. Starts off with this one here, which is a really low octave. And then we go into the melodic part. And for those, that's literally just an NXT, just keyed into the right key, and just a melody played in. And then we've got this section, which is your strings, which is just filters in, gives it some air before the drop, just before the actual drop comes in. On its own, it sounds a bit cheesy. I think I've got like a little siren on the drop here, just to give it a bit of a switch up on the second drop. But all together now for that build up, sounds like this.
Touch me when I'm near you. When you touch me when I'm near you. Such a feeling that you're giving me, giving me, giving me, giving me, giving me,
And there it is, a speed garage breakdown on Reason Studios. You've been with me, myself, Soloman from Gentleman's Club. I hope you enjoyed this one. Drop a comment if you want to hear anything else in the future from us. And yeah, hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you again, Reason Studios. And we'll see you soon. Bye bye.